If I didn't have those kids, I would myself.
Kourtney Kardashian's dream of having a baby with her husband Travis Barker is about to come true, but Mason, her oldest son with Scott Disick, doesn't want anything to do with her new life. Despite Kourtney's support and fairness towards Scott over the years, he's been encouraging their son to be on his side, and the truth about why he's turning Mason against Kourtney is honestly outrageous. When Kourtney and Travis's relationship went public in January 2021, a source told E! News that Scott was happy for his baby mama, but before long, other insiders started claiming that Scott's true feelings were the complete opposite. One source told Entertainment Tonight that Scott was actually very jealous of Travis. Even though Kourtney and Scott split for good in 2015, he supposedly still wasn't ready to see her be so happy with someone else.
Kourtney knows that eventually we'll get married and live a good life.
What the source revealed next was absolutely crazy. Allegedly, Scott still feels like he had the upper hand. At the time, he was Kourtney's only baby daddy, and he had also spent more time dating her. He felt like his bond with her was stronger than her connection with Travis. But now, all of that has totally changed. When Kourtney and Travis got engaged, it wasn't exactly easy for Scott to accept.
Scott's right there. It's okay. Everything's okay. Oh, this couldn't be more awkward.
And when they got married last year, he tried to play it cool publicly, but because he never reached that level of commitment with Kourtney, he was reportedly very hurt. And now that Kourtney is expecting a baby with Travis, Scott's jealousy is supposedly out of control. He can't stand that Kourtney has moved on, and he's willing to do literally whatever it takes to keep her from being fully happy, even if that means turning Mason against her. During an episode of The Kardashians that aired last year, Kourtney and Travis had a family dinner with their kids, but right away it was obvious that Mason wasn't there. Kourtney ended up explaining the reason why, but it still seemed a little bit strange. Besides Mason, all of the kids in Travis and Kourtney's blended family were at the dinner. Now that he's 13 years old, I get that he might want some space at times, but the distance he's been creating between himself and his own mom is extremely telling. Mason almost never appears to be around Kourtney and Travis. Interestingly, that separation began when Scott felt like he was being pushed out of the Kardashian family, but how he started behaving once Kourtney started getting more serious with Travis was insane. Despite knowing that he was being filmed for his baby mama's family reality show, Scott suddenly started dissing Kourtney to her own sister. Not to mention, Mason, Penelope, and Rain were all within earshot, which made Scott trashing their mom even worse. Khloe later admitted that she knew Scott was just being snarky because Kourtney had moved on, but then she brought up a really valid point. Kourtney and Scott dated for the better part of 10 years before calling it quits, and clearly he's still having a rough time letting her go. Why would he have told her that he wanted to get back with her for years after their breakup if she was actually that awful? What's really hard to believe is Scott's entitlement when it comes to Kourtney and her family. He's honestly lucky that he's been included as much as he has been, especially since most exes in that situation wouldn't do anything other than strictly co-parent with him. Scott has mentioned feeling excluded from the family because of Kourtney moving on with Travis, but let's be real, she's been very respectful to him as the father of her kids. Why should she be forced to always be around him when he's been so disrespectful? Scott's bad behavior is what's really been causing tension and trouble in the family. For years, they've all been exposed to his toxic attitude. He can try pointing the finger at Kourtney and Travis, but truthfully, the only person he should blame is himself. By now, we all know that Scott has struggled with taking accountability for his actions, but for years, Kourtney continuously gave him chances and showed him grace even at his worst moments. She went above and beyond for Scott, just for the sake of their kids.
Worked so hard to keep his family together.
That's why Scott's current behavior is so hypocritical. Not only is it terrible that he's seemingly using Mason as a pawn against Kourtney, but there's literally no reason why he should be trying to punish her. Kourtney isn't doing anything wrong by moving on, and it's super ironic that he's upset about her finding happiness with someone else since he cheated on her countless times.
He has a text message from somebody called my wife
And it says, I loved looking into your eyes last night.
Even though Kourtney was obviously hurt by Scott's actions, she gave him many chances to redeem himself, but he repeatedly took advantage of her forgiving nature by constantly being unfaithful. Scott's main priority was partying with other women, and pretty much everybody knew that. It's not like he was really trying to hide it, since he eventually started cheating right in front of the paparazzi. Kourtney also supported Scott's multiple stints in rehab because she wanted him to be a healthier parent for their children, but most of the time he either left treatment early or didn't seem to take it seriously. For a while he was under the influence more often than not.
Scott is like on a crazy bender.
Kourtney didn't even act surprised when Scott spent entire weekends partying, which was so sad for their kids, but his struggles with substance use also led to incredibly dangerous situations. Kourtney did her best to shield the kids from seeing Scott while he was actively using substances without completely cutting him out of their lives. But at one point when Mason was a baby, Kourtney and Kim narrowly avoided a disturbing incident. Scott was under the influence and he was so angry that Kourtney wasn't happy with him. What happened next proved just how severe his substance use issues really were. Throughout all of that, Kourtney still didn't try to turn the children against Scott or tell them he wasn't safe to be around. Even after they broke up and he started dating Sophia Richie, she continued to always put the kids first. Whenever there was a family trip, Kourtney invited both Scott and Sophia to join them.
I just said to Scott, like, do you want to invite Sophia?
Kourtney's biggest concern wasn't tearing Scott down from moving on with someone else. It was creating happy memories for her kids, which meant putting any discomfort to the side.
That's nice of you. You are such a great co-parenter.
For more than a decade, Scott mistreated Kourtney and blamed everyone else for his problems. He said that he wanted to get back together with her, but he did nothing to prove that he would actually step up. Even the Kardashian-Jenner clan started seeing him for who he truly was.
He just tries to get everyone on his side and play the victim when it's really not fair.
Kris had been insanely forgiving of Scott's mistakes, even though he'd let her daughter down for years, but eventually she finally had a moment of clarity. Over the years, the co-parenting relationship between Kourtney and Scott had been rocky at times, but Kourtney has always tried to do what's best for the kids, despite how challenging it's been to deal with Scott's substance use, infidelity, and selfishness. That's why it's absolutely insane that Scott has seemingly been turning Mason against Kourtney. He should be grateful that she and her family still treat him as well as they do, and that they've kept him employed by allowing him to appear on their show. Scott likes to remind the Kardashians that because his parents passed away, they're all he has left. But if that was actually meaningful to him, wouldn't he want to be more appreciative and respectful? None of them owe Scott anything other than Kourtney having a basic co-parenting relationship with him. Hopefully Scott learns how to handle the dynamic changing in the Kardashian family soon, because someday Mason is going to realize everything that his dad put his mom through just because she wanted him to be a present parent. It's awful that Scott seems to be using Mason as a pawn against Kourtney because he's upset that she's moved on. But now that we've gotten into the reasons why it's so hypocritical of him, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Scott blaming Kourtney and Travis for him not being invited to all the Kardashian-Jenner family events? Do you think he'll ever change his ways, or will he keep playing the victim and turn the other kids against their mom too? Let me know in the comments below.